we're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for almost $300 billion. We shouldn't be subsidizing. Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let them become a state. We're subsidizing Mexico, and we're subsidizing Canada, and we're subsidizing many countries all over the world. And all I want to do is I want to have a level, fast, but fair playing field.
Doug Ford says it would be a last resort, but Ontario is prepared to turn off the power it supplies to 1.5 million American homes. That's if Donald Trump follows through on 25% tariffs on Canadian goods going into the States. The feds have come up with a plan to add more resources and technology at the border, trying to limit the movement of migrants and drugs. But Ford says Canada needs to show the U.S. it has tools in its tool belt ready to reach for.
It's a last resort. We power 1.5 million homes, and if they put on tariffs, it's going to be unaffordable for Americans to buy electricity. Just like if they put tariffs on the 4.3 million barrels of oil that's Alberta shipping down to the U.S. If you put 25%, that increases every barrel of oil by, every gallon of gasoline by $1. So I don't think that President-elect Trump wants that to happen. What we're sending a message to the U.S. You come and attack Ontario, you attack livelihoods of people of Ontario and Canadians. We're going to use every tool in our toolbox to defend Ontarians and Canadians across the border. And let's hope that never comes to that point. Let's hope we can get through this trade deal. The problem is not with Canada. The problem is with China. And China shipping in parts to Mexico, Mexico slapping on Made in Mexico stickers, and shipping them up through the U.S. and Canada and taking American and Canadian jobs. That's the problem.
Trump responded to Ford's threat today, saying this.
Well, that's okay if he does that, that's fine. But the United States is subsidizing Canada. It's truly a subsidy, and we shouldn't have to do that.
And other provinces seem unwilling to withhold their energy from U.S. markets.
From the Alberta perspective, under no circumstances will Alberta agree to cut off oil and gas exports.
By the way, I won't threat Donald not to send electricity.
The disagreement between provinces goes even deeper. Last night, Premier Ford said he is convinced Canada will not escape U.S. tariffs. However, François Legault cited his meeting with Trump last week in Paris.
And he told me very clearly that we can avoid those tariffs if we do what needs to be done with the borders.
Which is the focus of a new announcement from Alberta Premier Danielle Smith today. A team of specially trained Alberta sheriffs that will patrol the border, more than 50 officers, K-9 teams, and cold weather surveillance drones to stop illegal cross-border activity.
If we succeed and maintain proper border security, I expect we will have a very strong relationship with the United States, as we always have.
China responds after Trump threatens tariffs. 𝒲𝒶𝓎-𝒯ℛ𝒰, spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington, stated that Beijing believes economic and trade cooperation between the two countries is mutually beneficial. On November 26, the Chinese embassy in Washington declared that neither the U.S. nor China wins in a trade war. The statement came after U.S. President-elect Donald Trump announced plans to impose an additional 10% tariff on all imports from China immediately upon taking office on January 20th. 𝒲𝒶𝓎 reiterated that Beijing views economic and trade cooperation as advantageous for both sides. Regarding Chinese goods, Trump indicated that an additional 10% tariff would be applied to imports into the U.S. unless China curbs the flow of illegal drugs into the country. He remarked, "I've had numerous discussions with China about the massive amounts of drugs, especially fentanyl, being sent into the U.S., but they've been fruitless."
Okay, do y'all remember hearing about the dark winter? Well, Doug Ford just threatened that, and this just happened on Wednesday, that because of the tariffs that the new President Trump is imposing, that now they're thinking about cutting off energy supply to the U.S. in response to this. Now, they're saying, he mentioned dates. He said between January 20th and 21st, if this continues, Michigan, New York State, and Wisconsin, mind you, that is where I currently reside. He said it's coming, kind of like for sure. And he said it's not about if, it's about when.
We will go to the full extent, depending how far this goes. We will go to the extent of cutting off their energy, going down to Michigan, going down to New York State, and over to Wisconsin. I don't want this to happen, but my number one job is to protect Ontario, Ontarians and Canadians as a whole. This is coming. It's not if it is, it's coming. And it's coming January 20th or 21st. And we need to be prepared. We need to stand as a country. We need to stand united as Canadians and work hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with our colleagues across the country. And we're ready to.
Y'all, when I tell y'all I set up in my seat. So if you didn't know, about 49% of exports for our energy goes to Minnesota, comes from Canada. And so they're because of and he's not the only person that is making statements like this concerning the tariffs. I guess the tariffs has been increased by 25% across the board. That dark winter that people have been speaking of, and that's why y'all gotta understand, right or left, they a team. Because one side said it was gonna be a dark winter.
About to go into a dark winter. A dark winter.
How you know it's a dark winter? You ain't even gonna be in office. How you know that? How do you know that? All of a sudden you know it's a dark winter. Now your other counterparts are in. That's why I be saying, child, 1 + 1 is 2. You know that China also have banned exports of critical minerals to the U.S. as these trade tensions have escalated. It is really critical for our country because we should really know at this point that a large portion, and I don't know the percentage, that's why I would say 90% because it feels like 90%, but there is a large portion of our goods are exported and it comes from this country. We are looking at dark times, those days of TikTok when we had the preppers and they're still prepping, and warning you guys, this is what the prepping was for. What we're getting ready to move into 2025 is going to be like no other year that anybody has ever experienced. The book of Revelation, the Bible has urged us to let us know in the last days that we will experience famine, and this is what the famine is looking like. If we don't get in there and Trump it doesn't change his mind or whatever he needs to do, we are looking at a full out. We're going to be lacking supplies, and it can get very bad, especially when it comes to medications and things that are absolutely needed for people's livelihood. You know, everybody's mind and their energy is all the way shifted to these drones, because mine is too. I can't see nothing, hear nothing. What is these drones? But there are so many other things that I feel like is really going on that is they're trying to take our attention away from the things that are actually important and that can really control our livelihood, our well-being. A person that you really need medications and things of that nature, you need to stock up now, because these countries are not playing with us anymore. And this is the timing and the season of all of this. We must understand that we are under judgment, and now this is the timing for it. Stock up, do what you need to do, get your water, and make sure you have whatever you need in case our energy supply is not there. They're telling us, Michigan, New York State, and Wisconsin, I think Minnesota, they are telling us right there, you might not have no energy, so you need to prepare. That man said January 2021. That's all. I had to write it on my calendar. Prepare, make sure you can live without lights. Camera action, child. That's the video.
You have a lot of exports that go to the U.S. from your oil refinery and other core projects.
Well, that's exactly it. The New England states and beyond rely on 320,000 barrels of oil going into their states a day, and that's critical for their energy security. Also in New England, there's electricity being exported. Electrons are coming from Newfoundland and through Quebec that keep the lights on in the New England states. We also know there's a significant reliance on our forestry products because the U.S. is trying to build homes for Americans, but they need our 2x4s to do so, and it would have a significant impact to them if those weren't available or were more expensive. And so right now we're gathering all the information we need to understand, you know, what is the most strategic way to build a retaliation strategy that's going to be effective.
But are we talking about just withholding the 320,000 barrels of oil a day, withholding the electricity, withholding?
The fact is, we need them, and they also need us. Canada is the largest market for the U.S. in the world, larger than China, Japan, the UK, and France combined. It is also the case that the things we sell to the United States are the things they really need. We sell them oil, we sell them electricity, we sell them critical minerals and metals. The energy the United States imports from Canada is more important today than ever. This is a moment when Canada needs to be united, we need to be strong, and we need to be smart. There are significant challenges. We know that. We also know that there are real opportunities, and we know that by working together, Canada can be successful.
The president-elect is threatening harsh tariffs against America's top 3 trading partners, Mexico, Canada, and China. Already, U.S. CEOs are warning if President-elect Trump does impose new tariffs, they will be passed on to consumers as higher prices. They will be passed on to consumers as higher prices. Best Buy CEO saying the vast majority of that tariff will probably be passed on to the consumer. Home Depot's CEO warning there certainly will be an impact. And Walmart's finance chief saying tariffs are going to be inflationary.
President-elect Trump got elected on a commitment to make life better and more affordable for Americans. And I think people south of the border are beginning to wake up to the reality that tariffs on everything from Canada would make life a lot more expensive for Americans. So that's part of the argument. The other part is we will, of course, as we did 8 years ago, respond to unfair tariffs in a number of ways. And we're still looking at the right ways to respond. But our responses to the unfair steel and aluminum tariffs were what ended up lifting those tariffs last time.
Yo, Donald Trump is wild. So at a recent event, Justin Trudeau told Donald Trump that sanctions would crush Canada's economy. And in response, Donald Trump said the wildest shit that I think I've ever heard a president say. He said that if Canada can't survive while ripping off the United States to the tune of $100 billion, then maybe Canada should become the 51st state and you could be the governor. That is wild. But to be technical, the trade deficit is actually only $50 billion. It's not $100 billion. We have a goods trade deficit of about $78 billion, but we have a services surplus of about $27 billion. So it comes out to about a total of a $50 billion trade deficit. But even a $50 billion trade deficit doesn't mean that we're being ripped off. We have a $50 billion trade deficit because we have 8 times the population that Canada does. We have 334 million people in the United States. Canada has 40 million, and Canada has an abundance of resources. We have a trade deficit because, simply put, we need more goods from them than they need from us. Or are the tariffs all about the border policy? Because if so, then that was just a straight cheap shot and had nothing to do with the trade deficit at all. Not only was it inaccurate, but it was totally irrelevant. But I guess you can't pass up a good cheap shot when the opportunity presents itself. Trump is wild.
Toronto, Donald Trump apparently told Justin Trudeau during their dinner at Mar-a-Lago that if Canada cannot handle the tariffs that Donald Trump is planning to impose on them, then Canada should become the 51st state of America, and he told Justin Trudeau that he should be its governor instead of prime minister, which Justin Trudeau currently is because Canada is a separate country. Basically, Donald Trump was threatening to annex Canada should Justin Trudeau not comply with the tariffs. Now, according to Fox News, this was Donald Trump making a joke, and apparently when he told this joke, Justin Trudeau nervously laughed, as any foreign leader would if they heard the president-elect of the most powerful nation in the world joke about annexing their country and turning it into a state. Now, I know people were critical of Justin Trudeau visiting Mar-a-Lago in the first place, but this is precisely why he visited. Donald Trump is severely unhinged, unstable, and unpredictable, and it served Justin Trudeau and Canada's interests to play the game and play to Donald Trump's ego so as to prevent Donald Trump from doing anything crazy like imposing 25% tariffs, raising costs on everybody, and then threatening to annex Canada. Can't believe this guy is about to be in the Oval Office again.
We are the envy of North America. We're the envy of the world. Mr. Speaker, you just have to ask the great governors that I speak to on a weekly basis, the senators and congressmen and women. They see the growth here, Mr. Speaker, and we're their #1 competition. You wonder why? The President-elect Trump wants to put tariffs because we're a threat to the U.S., because we're a manufacturing powerhouse. We created more manufacturing jobs last year than all 50 U.S.